Imagine standing on a windswept plain, the air sharp with the scent of earth and smoke, where every sound, the rustle of grass, the crackle of a distant fire carries meaning. 10,000 years ago, our ancestors lived in a world that demanded. They listened, not just with their ears, but with their entire being. They possessed a skill we've almost entirely lost, the art of deep environmental awareness. A profound attunement to the natural world that shaped their survival, their culture, and their very thoughts. What was it like to live with such acute perception? How did they hone this ability, and why have we let it slip away? Picture a band of hunter-gatherers in the late Pleistocene, around 12,000 years ago, moving through a landscape of towering forests and sprawling wetlands. Archaeological evidence from sites like Star Carr in England reveals their lives in vivid detail. Excavations, their uncovered tools crafted from flint and bone, hearths still dusted with ash, and even a wooden platform, the earliest known carpentry in Europe. These weren't crude nomads stumbling through the wild. They were masterful observers, reading the land like a living map. A broken twig, a faint hoofprint in the mud. The sudden silence of birdseas were signals as clear as words, guiding them to prey or warning them of predators. This attunement wasn't just about survival. It was a way of knowing. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups, like the Sand people of the Kalahari, offer a glimpse into this mindset. The Sand can identify animal tracks not just by species but by the individual creature's age, sex, and even its mood details gleaned from the depth of a print or the scatter of displaced pebbles. Our ancestors likely shared this skill, their minds weaving together sensory clues into a tapestry of understanding. Imagine walking with them, your eyes trained to spot the faint sheen of dew disturbed on a leaf, your ears catching the distant snort of a deer. Every step was a conversation with the world. But how did they develop such perception? It began in childhood. Ethnographic research shows that hunter-gatherer children learned through immersion, not instruction. They played in the wild, mimicking animal calls, tracing patterns in the dirt. By adulthood, their senses were razor-sharp, their knowledge encyclopedic. At sites like Monte Verde in Chile, dating back 14,500 years, archaeologists found evidence of diverse diets, plants, mammals, even seaweed, proof of an intimate understanding of seasonal cycles and ecological niches. They didn't just live in nature, they were part of its rhythm, anticipating its shifts with a precision we can scarcely fathom. This skill shaped more than their hunts. It wove into their stories, their art, their spirituality. The cave paintings of Lascaux, vivid with galloping horses and charging aurochs, aren't just art. They're records of observation, capturing the exact curve of a stag's antler or the tension in a bison's flank. These images suggest a people who saw the world with an artist's eye and a scientist's rigor. Yet, unlike us, they didn't separate the two. To them, a footprint was both a practical clue and a sacred sign, a thread in the larger story of existence. Why does this matter to us? Sitting in our climate-controlled homes, our senses dulled by screens and noise. Because this lost skill reveals something profound about being human. Our ancestors' awareness wasn't just about noticing details. It was about connection to the land, to each other, to the pulse of life itself. Studies of modern urban dwellers show we've become less attuned to our surroundings, our attention fragmented by constant stimuli. We walk through parks blind to the signs they once read, the angle of a branch, the scent of rain on the wind. What have we traded for this disconnection? And could we ever reclaim that ancient clarity? Let's linger a moment longer in that ancient world, where the air hums with life and every glance reveals a story etched in the landscape. Our ancestors' deep environmental awareness wasn't just a skill, it was a lifeline, a dance of senses, that bound them to the earth. But how did this attunement shape their daily lives beyond the hunt? And what does its absence mean for us, as we navigate a world that feels increasingly distant from the one they knew? Consider their campsites, like those uncovered at Pinsevant in France, dating back 12,000 years. Archaeologists found hearths arranged in precise patterns, surrounded by tools and bones meticulously sorted. These weren't random encampments but deliberate spaces, designed with an acute awareness of wind, water, and animal trails. They chose sites where the land spoke of safety and abundance, a river bend, rich with fish, a hillside offering a clear view of approaching herds. Every decision reflected a dialogue with the environment, a knowledge so instinctive it bordered on the spiritual. Can you imagine living with such intimacy, where the curve of a valley feels as familiar as a friend's face? This awareness extended to their social bonds. Hunter-gatherer groups, as ethnographic studies of the Hadza in Tanzania reveal, relied on shared knowledge to thrive. One person's observation, a shift in bird migration, a patch of ripening berries, became the group's wisdom. They communicated not just with words but with gestures, sounds, even silences. Their senses attuned to each other as much as to the land. At sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, 11,000-year-old stone pillars carved with animals suggest gatherings where stories and observations were shared, perhaps in rituals that celebrated their unity with the wild. Their world was a web of relationships, human and non-human, woven by attention, yet this skill demanded constant practice. Unlike our lives, segmented by schedules and screens, theirs was a continuous immersion. Archaeological evidence from the Nachafian culture in the Levant shows they tracked seasonal changes with precision, harvesting wild grains at their peak or following gazelle migrations. They didn't just react to the environment, they anticipated it, their minds mapping patterns we've forgotten to notice. Think of the last time you felt the air shift before a storm or heard a sound that made you pause. For them, such moments were constant, a language they spoke fluently. So why have we lost this? The shift began with agriculture, around 10,000 years ago. As we settled, we reshaped the land rather than reading it. Domesticated crops and animals dulled our need to listen to the wild. Urbanization and technology widened the gap. Studies in cognitive science show modern humans struggle with inattentional blindness, missing details our ancestors would have caught. We're surrounded by noise traffic notifications that drowns out the subtle cues. They live by have we traded their clarity for convenience, their connection for control. Yet traces of their skill linger when a farmer senses rain in the ache of a bone, or a sailor reads the sea's mood in the waves. We glimpse that ancient awareness. Some indigenous communities, like the Inuit, still navigate by stars and snow patterns, their senses honed by necessity. These remnants suggest we could rekindle our attunement, even if only in fragments. Imagine pausing to notice the way light slants through trees or the rhythm of a city's sounds. Could we train ourselves to see the world with a fraction of their depth? As we stand in our modern world, so removed from theirs, the loss of this skill feels like a quiet ache. Our ancestors didn't just survive, they thrived in a world that demanded they listen, watch, and feel with every fiber of their being. Their legacy challenges us to look up from our distractions, to hear the stories still whispered by the earth. What might we discover if we tried to listen as they did, if only for a moment?